Man, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while providing the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you live the life of your dreams and influence the world in a positive way. So, if that's something that interests you, you can follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube, and then join us here Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. California time for Conscious Shifting. The way to communicate with us is through our daily thought provoking posts during a live or a replay of a live. Simply place your question in the comment box and we will respond from a spiritual perspective for the benefit of all. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Susan. How you doing? Everybody take a deep breath way down to the belly button and relax. Hi, Kathy. And another big deep breath. And relax. And one more time, big deep breath. And relax. All right, and there's Kim. So let's start with a question of the week. I get this from time to time, and it is: do enlightened people deal with life the way others do? I wish I could tell you otherwise, but it would be nice. But no, enlightened people, people that deal with higher consciousness, people that, I've traveled down that spiritual journey a ways, people that teach spirituality, write books. Sometimes people get the idea that because you have experience with those things, that somehow you're above the stuff that everybody else goes through in life. And that's simply not the case. Any spiritual teacher who tells you that they don't have thoughts and emotions, or they don't experience life the way everybody else does, is delusional. You'll experience life as a mind body if you're in a mind body. It's really that simple. Even if you hold higher consciousness, everybody deals with the game of life. Buddha did, Jesus did. With higher states of consciousness, you'll deal with it differently. I'll say that. And you don't attract the same stuff that you once did. That's also true. But at the same time, you don't control everything. You have your influence just like everybody else. It's a collective consciousness that's manifesting this reality. Beyond that, you don't have any control. So you're subject to the game of life just the way everybody else is. In fact, I'll tell you this: the tests get harder; they don't get easier. I hate to pop that bubble. Once you start understanding things on deeper levels, when you understand a higher truth, you'll become that truth. Let's put it that way. When you really, completely, and totally understand it, you will become that truth. For example, it's one thing to say that I understand human imperfection. It's another thing to live your life without ever being triggered by anybody. You see what I'm saying? So once you fully comprehend a higher truth, you'll become that truth. And then once you do, you'll rise to a higher state of consciousness. But then you'll be tested at that level of consciousness. So as you rise in consciousness, the tests actually get harder. You're better equipped to deal with them, but you're dealing with a higher test, so to speak. So I've always found that to be an excellent question. But it's wishful thinking. Just know that your journey is what it is. The truth, deeper understandings will be revealed to you when it's time for you to have them revealed. And it'll come in most likely baby steps. But still, though, very, very deep question, and I get it. But there you go. Hi, Amy. A year older. Well, happy early birthday. Yeah, I know. Huh? Hi, Trey. Okay, so tonight's topic is contemplating your existence. Now, contemplating your existence is kind of a mysterious endeavor. You know, it's on one level, it's how did all this get here? You know, how did you get here? But more importantly, and on a deeper level, who are you and why are you here? These are extremely profound questions, something that most people take for granted most of the time. Yeah, what could be more important? What could be more important than who are you and why are you here? That really gets to the bottom of the pile and blows all the papers up, doesn't it? So the vast majority of people typically go through their day-to-day life without stopping to give it much thought, you know, but still the questions remain. Who are you and why are you here? And a good place to start is where you are. That's what I always recommend. I mean, where else are you going to start anyway? But it just kind of, you know, snaps people into the present moment. Start where you are, right here, right now. But what if I ask you, do you have any doubt that you're participating in this live? Do you have any doubt that you're sitting here listening to this live and commenting in the comment box? Safe to say, most of you would probably answer, of course not. Isn't that obvious? But what is it? It's obvious, but what is it? That's really what we're getting at. You see how deep this goes. And how did it happen? What is this? Throughout the history of mankind, many cultures have come and gone, but there's a common thread running through all of them. There's a similar explanation for how we got here. And this is because the people of the world, at the very core of their being, feel a spiritual connection. Not everybody understands it. Not everybody acknowledges it. Very few own it, but it's there. On some level, we understand that something more exists beyond this. And deep within, we know we have a common spiritual source, a source of all of this. So there's something else beyond this, and we're all connected to it in some way. Everybody just kind of knows that coming in here. You know, when we descend into, or I should say, when we descended into matter, we manifested our soul as flesh and bone. And it's as if a veil or some brainwashing occurred, or we were injected with spiritual amnesia, because we have very little memory or ability to access who and what we were before, where we came from, what we did. We kind of have to live through all of that here and then carry on further, you know, get further down that spiritual journey. Now, religions of the world, they basically all state the same thing, and that is that there was God. God created the universe and everything in it. And so while the details vary a little bit, this is a common belief within all cultures. God's the creator of all that exists, including us. The exception being the atheists who don't believe in anything really. They do believe. In fact, they have a hell of a lot of faith that God does not exist. But most people, they accept that there's this God creator, whatever your concept of is of that, and somehow all of this is an expansion of that or was created by that. Now you have modern scientists who, for the most part, either deny or ignore any concepts of the spiritual realm. They also claim that God doesn't exist. They don't necessarily claim to be atheists, but they essentially are, or at least like to pretend that they are. They'll tell you that in the beginning there was nothing, even though they know that that's illogical and science is supposed to be based in rational thought. Logic's being part of the whole methodology of what they do. And so they tell you, well, there was nothing, and then there was this big bang, and then everything was just here as a result of that. But there's really no purpose in any of this, and we're really, when you get right down to it, just the result of a series of random accidents. So who's right? Let me check here, make sure I haven't gone too far. Hey, Ray, how's it going? Hi, Stan. Okay, so on one hand, you have the religious arguing that they have the word of God, and so therefore their word is above reproach, right? I mean, how can you argue with the creator about creation? And since they have the word of God, how can you question their authority in the matter? And on the other hand, you've got scientists who state that they deal in logic and facts, and anything else is just mere fantasy. And through these scientific theories and facts, they explain the physical world. They focus on what can be proven. Furthermore, they claim nothing else is of any value, meaning that they just ignore anything that they can't prove or they don't understand when you get right down to it. I'm being a little harsh here, but I'm trying to draw clear distinctions between these two major schools of thought. So which one's right? Actually, neither are right because both of them are incomplete. And there's much higher states of consciousness possible. And who's right really doesn't matter anyway, because it's not a matter of being right. And unless you're ready for the truth, you're not going to accept it anyway. So, and you'll find that this is true of people. If they're not ready for something, they're not going to accept it. And it doesn't matter how convincing the explanation or how solid the evidence. They don't want to believe it. They're not going to. In fact, the more invested you are in a particular point of view, the more you resist anything to the contrary. And throughout history, this has been demonstrated over and over. Differences of opinions, what you're really talking about here is ego, and people can lock horns to the point of actually getting violent. And in extreme cases, war. If you go back and look at the mindsets of people prior to warfare breaking out, you'll find this to be the case. It's probably something, if they wanted to let go of the emotions for a little bit, if possible, set aside the ego. But even if they just attempted to be calm and really listen to the other side and have a conversation and try to come to something that's mutually agreeable, there never would have been the war. Sad but true. So lower levels of consciousness are fear-based, and they often manifest as issues of control. because fear seeks power through control. In other words, fearing a loss of control, then people will compensate by attempting to take control others, silence them, shut them up if they don't want to hear what they have to say. Now, religion, let me make sure I haven't missed anything here. I see stuff moving by. Yeah, everyone does do that, but maybe not to the extreme. But again, I'm trying to draw clear distinctions. And so my point being that if you start down that road and you just progress to the natural conclusion, that's where you end up. That's a warning to not go down that road, to find something else to do, something more productive. Kim says fear sure has more power than it deserves. Indeed. Hi, Christina. It has an unbelievable amount of power. Most of what goes on in the world is based in fear. Most of what goes on. Your television commercials, your television movies, your what's in the news, politics. Most of the when these big groups get together at these world summits, almost all of it's fear-based. Almost all of it. So control becomes a thing, and religion will climb into bed with government as a means of controlling others. In the name of God, millions upon millions of people have been imprisoned or killed simply because they didn't believe the right way. In the name of God, right? And this has nothing to do with God. Nothing. This is evil created by man, and to this day, you still see these alliances. The scientific community has bedfellows as well. They like to make out like they're above all this, but many scientists and professors live off of grants. Many scientific organizations and think tanks and universities, if it weren't for the grants, they wouldn't exist. Some are government or politically motivated, and there's others that are business oriented. A business wants some research into a particular area to patent a product or a drug or something. But regardless, too often the grants are going to come to those who, kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, agree to say and do what the grant givers want. And what we get is corrupted or even manufactured truth. And this has nothing to do with science. It's not scientific at all. It's much of what's published as scientific fact is merely the opinion of some of these pseudoscientists and professors. An opinion is not scientific fact. And you hear this kind of stuff all the time in the scientific community. Well, the consensus isn't scientific fact. It just means that a group of people agree on something. That doesn't make it science or fact. That's an opinion. And what about government? We've nailed religion, we've nailed science. And, what about government? Well, the governments that science and religion find themselves in bed with, what about them? Modern governments are religions unto themselves. And truth be told, they have been for a long time. They've evolved from one to another to another. As one collapses, another comes up in its place. But they're basically religions unto themselves. They they try to replace God with government, and so that the people worship the government, believe in the government. They have a God complex, and they exist to control others. I mean, that's what government does. So they use whomever they can as a tool, and in their eyes, the end justifies the means. And the so-called impartial news media, they're nothing more than the PR machine of the powers that be. So where does this leave us? I mean, these are all the places people look for information. Well, it leaves us right here, right now. And it's up to us to discern the truth. But what is the truth? Kim says it's kind of like when doctors are practicing medicine. Yeah. It's funny when you notice these things. Doctors are practicing medicine. What's the other one that cracks me up all the time? And if you watch television, they call it programming, right? But what's the truth? The truth is that religion is wonderful, but it's limited. Religion recognizes that there's a spiritual realm, and that brings people closer to God. However, religion is based in thought. There's rules, there's rituals, it's rigid, therefore it's fragmented. The religious teachers and their words end up becoming the focus rather than the lessons being taught. And then this descends into clashes of ego rather than an ascension into God, right? The presence of God isn't rigid. It's not fragmented, certainly not egotistical. Spirit's flowing and loving, and without needing to resort to aggression to prove anything. Has nothing to prove. If anything, Spirit is patient. It's like just waiting for us to get it, waiting for us to wake up. There's no judgment. There's no punishment. They're just like, and so it is. Now, science is, now they says they practice, we are the patient. Yeah, we're the experiment, big time. But we learn that way. We all learn that way. I mean, it's not all bad, but it's not like you're kind of brought up to believe either, where there's this all-knowing, all-wise person who can just fix anything that's wrong with you. It's not quite like that. And that brings me to science. So science is also wonderful, but it's also limited. When it comes to the physical realm, science is fantastic. I watch the Discovery and the History Channel. Those are my favorite channels. I watch them all the time. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there. I learn all kinds of stuff, and just weird things that you would never imagine, and all these different life forms and the way things work. It's amazing. Scientists explain how the physical universe works, and this is no small feat. I mean, the physical world is a mysterious, amazing place. To understand the laws governing the universe and then be able to predict events seems like magic. I mean, people that can actually predict things with any kind of accuracy, that's impressive. That's truly impressive, because, well, I'll give you an idea. This book, the one that I'm writing now, I've been doing research into prophecies and predictions, and I can come up with hundreds of thousands of them that didn't happen. But try and find some that did, especially that are not where you have to get out your decoder ring and manipulate what they're saying and leave part of it out and add a little in there to make it make sense, and then even then it only makes sense after the events occurred. That's really not much of that's not what I would call an accurate prophecy or prediction. So to be able to do that to any extent with anything, I mean, I'm impressed, really. To understand the laws governing the universe, in other words. But there's also a spiritual realm. The weird thing is that scientists are aware of its existence, but they call it an anomaly. They deny its spiritual nature. And because it cannot be explained in scientific terms, it's pretty much ignored. But they know of its existence. So the thing is that religion and science, what you have to understand is that there's some things about them that are great, but they're of this world. They can only take you so far. You can contemplate your existence, therefore you exist. If only the physical realm existed, then you'd need to only understand the physical realm. But you're capable of much higher states of consciousness. And that's where mankind's headed, into an evolution where we, as we have in the past, move into higher and higher states of consciousness. This one's going to be a little different, though. This isn't going to be where, we learn we make a tool, or we learn how to do something faster, better, or develop some new technology or some new medicine. Those are all great. It's not going to be like we just went from all fours and stood up either. This is going to be spiritual. There is going to be a spiritual awakening. And that's what I mean when I say you're capable. You're not only capable, you're going to realize higher and higher states of consciousness. That's really what the awakening is. And as we awaken more and more, you're going to see things that are at this time rejected as impossible and mere fantasy. But higher consciousness exists beyond the physical world. It exists in this, what I call the spiritual realm, not meaning Casper the ghost. I'm talking about a realm of non-physicality. There's no matter, there's no bodies, there's no physical stuff. There's nothing that you would even not like we experience it. There's no language, there's no opinion, there's no judgment. There's just a knowledge of what is. And when you remove all of that, the reason that all these spiritual masters of the past have talked about it in terms of the bliss, the nirvana, the heaven, and all this kind of stuff, is because if you think about moving beyond the physical realm, moving beyond the mind body, moving beyond opinions and emotions, you're moving beyond all of the stuff that causes all these problems. You're moving beyond all this negative toxic energy. And when you remove all of that, because all of that is based in the physical world, when you remove all of that, the only thing that's left is just what is. You can describe it as heaven or bliss or nirvana. You could describe it as unconditional love. But it lacks all of the stuff that we find to be problematic. Our problem is that as we descended into matter, we started believing in all of these things that are problematic as reality. We accepted it as fact when it's not. It's a falsehood. Exactly. It just is. Kim says, I think some are starting to come around. Some are. And that's really what the book deals with, is what's currently going on in the world. It looks dark, and it is, but it has the potential to be the polar opposite. Think about that for a minute. The process we're going through, the light at the end of the tunnel, if we do this right, is going to create a world that we don't recognize. It'll be so much better, so much more peaceful, so much more beautiful that we won't even recognize it. It's hard to imagine ridding ourselves of some of this lower stuff. But that, it's going to happen to some degree. That depends on us. But the potential is just off the charts. This is a really big event, a really big event. And so the potential, the possibility is huge, just as big as the event. The bigger the test, the bigger the opportunity to rise. Trey, much depends on how willing people are willing to shed ego and open up to new realms. Exactly. Kim says moving beyond the distractions. That's it. So the distractions, the shiny objects that ego focuses on, they're really not that great. I mean, there are some beautiful things. Hi, Cheryl. How you doing? There are some beautiful things, but there's also a lot of hostility. I mean, there's a lot of really dark stuff. You look at your television programming. You have stations that run series after series after series after series of every kind of horrible thing you can imagine. Lots of different shows all about, I mean, so, let's pick one. What are some of them? Evil Next Door. Okay, so now here's a show that's running multiple seasons that specializes in your neighbor killing you for some reason. A whole TV show. And it's going on multiple seasons, and it's not the only one. I mean, it's just unbelievable. That what we have to look forward to is moving beyond that at the very least. Kim loves the crime show. She could be one of those forensic people, me, I'm traumatized by this stuff. I sit there, I can't take it. I sit there and I'll watch one or two with her, and I got to get up. And I go, oh my God, you got to be kidding. Somebody actually did that. And you listen to what these people say. It's horrifying. It's like, when's their head going to spin around and they're going to start spitting out green pea soup? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Nice. 91st. Wow. Tell her congrats for me. So the thing is that we're capable of much better than this. We're capable of much higher states of consciousness. And some people are starting to come around. So the thing is, if you're going to really understand your existence, you have to go beyond the physical world, because you are more than that. So it's not enough just to understand religion and science and politics and whatever else there is to discover here. Every kind of animal. There's lots of things you can get into to fascinate yourself, but it goes way beyond all of that. And if you're really truly going to understand your existence, which gets to the heart of who are you and why are you here, then you really have to understand what's beyond all that. And you can't understand what's beyond all that by being distracted and focusing on all that. Right? There you go. Yeah, exactly. So ultimate truth is something that can never be proven wrong, no matter how you slice it or dice it. It never changes. You can test it chemically, physically, mathematically, biologically, through your own personal experience with it. Historically, it's always been that, whether it was realized or not. It's never changed, and it never will. The truth never changes. If it changes, it's not the truth. It might be a partial truth, but it's not the truth. And so, what can you say about the physical world? If there's one thing you can say about it, everything's in a constant state of change. So, what does that tell you about the physical world? It's not the truth, it's an illusion. So, the ultimate truth, the truth, and it does exist, it's not an opinion. It's not something to argue over. It is what it is, and it never changes. It has no beginning and it has no end. Now, what's that sound like? I am the Alpha and the Omega, right? All-knowing, eternal God. There you go. There's the ultimate truth, that which never changes. Therefore, it always is what it is. And that's this non-physical realm I'm talking about. There's no time, there's no space, there's no physical matter, there's no mind body, so there can't be any thoughts, emotions, opinions. You know, it's just, it is what it is. And this brings us to spirituality. Spirituality is unique because it can take you where religion and science can't. And as you move into higher states of consciousness, you'll actually start transcending physical reality. It's a weird sensation, but as your awareness expands beyond physical existence, you become more and more aware of spiritual existence. You start to understand spiritual truths. You find yourself not being triggered. You find yourself like opinions or minutia. It doesn't really matter because it's all it's all divisive, which is not the truth. The truth is unifying. The journey home, awakening, ascension into higher states of consciousness is about moving back into the oneness where it all started. The division, that's occurred, which resulted in us really going off the high dive into this division, this separation, it ended up us pitting each other against each other. Politics, warfare, whatever, there's race. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It has nothing to do with the truth. So it doesn't matter what side. See, that's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on. You argue all you want. It's crap. That's all it is. It's divisive, which is anti-spirit. Ego is anti-spirit. Now, a lot of people think that there's this antichrist, there's this devil, there's this, and we'll get into that some other time, dark forces and all that. But it's not like people think. But if there's anything that's anti-spirit, it's ego, because ego is divisive. It separates people. And that's this other realm I'm talking about, which always has been and always will be. This is a sub-reality of it. This will eventually end. This other realm has always been what it is. So if there's anything that's anti-it, it's something that's divisive. You see? That's where we blew it. That was the fall from grace. Now, different religions explain it differently. In Eden, there was a snake that tempted Eve, and she bit this apple. But if you think about it as a metaphor, there was this tree of knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of right and wrong, knowledge of male and female, knowledge of whether you're clothed or not. All of a sudden, judgment and opinions came into the picture. That's what it was. That was the fall from grace. So this awakening is an undoing of that. It's, in a sense, it really doesn't have anything to do with memories, but in a way to make it understandable, it's kind of like remembering who and what we are. We've always been that, but we believe otherwise, and the world brainwashes us to keep us believing otherwise. So as you move into higher levels of consciousness, you transcend this physical reality. And what's left is what you would describe as heaven or bliss or nirvana, unconditional love. And there is no separation. There's no Republican Democrat. There's no gay straight. There's no man woman. There's none of this, black white. These things are like what shirt you're wearing. It has nothing to do with who you are. It doesn't. I mean, this whole mind body is like a suit that we zipped up over our soul, if you want to get right down to it. Fun and uplifting. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And we signed up for this, as Kim says. Can you believe it? But we did, and a lot of people don't want to own that. They're like, I didn't sign up for this. And that kind of stuff all the time, where people hating on me because, you say everything is as it should be. Why should, people die? Why should children get sick? Why should, all these horrible crimes be committed? Because people that have bought into the illusion and have descended deep into their ego believe in this stuff. And so that's what's manifested. It has nothing to do with God or the devil or anything else. Nothing. It's not spiritual. It's physical. It's anti-spiritual. It's anti-spiritual. And until you own that we've signed up for this and that we're manifesting this, it's not going to change. In fact, it may even get worse. So that's part of this whole process. But the more people that can grasp this and at least start to work on it, start to open up, start to let go of these hostilities, start to just give people space, start to understand that no matter, the full truth to be realized takes all the parts, even the icky stuff. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that people that do all these horrible things, it's not them doing it. It's the part of them that's broken. And that's just how their pain is manifesting itself. It's not really them doing it. There's the same light in them that's in you, that's in God. It's the same light. It's the same soul. It's the same spirit. Not the same soul, but it's the same. It's the same spirit, which all the souls are connected to. Let's put it that way. So you can't. That's why you can't judge, because it's like, just judge lest you be judged. That's why, because you're literally judging yourself. When in reality, it's not even their essence. That's, I say there. See, there's a separation, but it's not even people's essence that's doing these horrific things. It's their pain. It's their trauma. So that's another way to understand it and start to just accept that, well, that's where they are. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying we should allow it either. All I'm saying is that we should understand it and do what we can to help them rise above where they are. Which is where we are now big time. Yeah, we created a huge pile of dung. We're dung beetles. Oh my God, this is funny. So as awareness expands, you'll become more and more and more aware of this stuff, understand it on deeper and deeper levels, and it'll start manifesting in your life that way. And when enough of us are doing this collectively, you're going to start seeing changes in the world. That's how it's going to happen. So, you know, everybody's on this path, whether they realize it or not. Even you atheists, I'll tell you right now, I see through your trauma. And that's how I see atheism, just like I see everything else. You're trying to distance yourself from things that you see as being detrimental or harmful. I get it. But, you know, it's kind of like the old saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know? So everyone's on this spiritual path. And at some point, everyone's going to realize it. And that'll be the beginning of their awakening. And a lot of people already are kind of hip to this. A lot of people have got even further down the road than that. They're starting to work with some higher truths and some higher consciousness. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And once you become aware of this truth that we're all on a spiritual path, and it really is not a path in a sense that it's a trail that leads somewhere. It's a way of life. Again, it's consciousness. It's what is. You become it. You actually realize it. You're already it. You realize it. You don't go anywhere. You don't learn anything. You simply realize a higher truth about who and what you are and what all this is and where you fit into all of this. So when you realize this, then you can start working to create the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, as I say, which is really what all these talks deal with. There are different aspects of that. And then as it starts to click, you know, you'll think, oh, I know that. I know that to be true. What he's saying is, I already know that. I haven't been living that. It's like I forgot it somehow, but I can't explain it, but I know that I've always known that. You'll resonate with it. You'll gravitate towards it. Like a vacuum, you'll just get sucked into it. And it'll just start blossoming. And as this happens, more and more and more innate knowledge will be revealed to you. That's really what the revelation of God is. It's a revealing of what's already within, but you have to be ready for it. And you can't push it. You can't rush it. You can't force it. It just doesn't work that way. You can't, in other words, you know, if you think of consciousness, let's just pick a number, 100. It's easy to imagine. So there's 100 levels of consciousness. You can't just jump to 50, because 50 is based upon 1 through 49, which are based upon 1 through 48, which are based upon 1 through 47. So you really have to go from 1 to 2 to 3. It's just how it is. Now, if you're able to do that in an instant, more power to you. But most people would just explode. They couldn't handle it. It'd melt down. It's just too contrary to anything they could even imagine as being reality. And so that's why, for most people, it's a process. But it's this innate knowledge that's being revealed. That's revelation. And this inner knowledge, once realized, leads you home, back to who and what you are. And, you know, I call it supreme consciousness, the great spirit, however you want to look at it. But there's no place like home. I'll leave it with that. There's no place like home. We'll quote Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. That was a great line. But we'll call that home. You know, a return to God, so to speak, a return to who and what we are, back to all of us being together and happy, not judging each other, not at war, right? Not slumming it through the dung, as we tend to do here. Trey says, when I can acknowledge my own brokenness, then I truly grow. Exactly. Exactly. When you empty your cup, you make room for something else. And then it's a matter of, what are you gonna, you know, you pour out some falsity, some toxic energy. Now, what are you gonna, you got room in your cup. What are you gonna put in there? I recommend asking for divine guidance at that, and filling it with higher truth, with spiritual stuff. But that's it. And until you empty that cup, until you make some room, until you admit that you may not know everything, you're never going to learn anything. Nothing's going to change. She says, got to climb those stairs. That's it. That's it. All right, so let's move on to a healing circle, and then we'll call it a night. If there's any other questions, go ahead and put them in there. But I think you guys, I get the feeling you guys have followed this. So, but always ask questions. You know, sometimes people get intimidated because it's live. But the thing is, the reason that one is because we're at 22,000 followers or something, you know, and I got a job. That's why I can do this for free, because I work during the day. I run a business. So I don't have time to answer everything. So, and do personal one-on-ones and you know, chit chat and all this kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons. But the other reason is because I guarantee, because I'm on the receiving end, so I see it. If one of you has a question, there's more than one of you that has it. And my guess is there's a lot of you that have it. And so when you put it in the comment box and I answer it, and, you know, either in the comment box or during a live, that's what I mean when I say to the benefit of everyone. It's exactly what I mean. So it's like I'm answering 1,000 questions that are the same question or close, you know. So it works really well. But if you never ask the question, then you're only inhibiting your own growth and the growth of the other 999 people that also are too intimidated to ask that question. So there's no stupid questions. You know, if you're wondering about something, there's a reason why, and hopefully I can give you something that will be an aha moment for you, and you'll rise. That's the whole point of all of this. All of it. All right, so let me get the banner up. There we go. All right, everybody gather around, form a circle, join hands, gently close your eyes and your mouths, breathing through your nose down to an area just below your belly button, subtly, but just subtly think about that area. Nothing forced. So inhale way down into your lower abdomen. And then exhale back out through your nose. That's it, everyone holding hands. Nice deep breath. Inhale, peace. and exhale tension. Inhale higher consciousness. Exhale lower consciousness. Inhale spirit. And exhale all falsehoods. All right, so continue breathing on your own. And then focus on your breath. And one reason we do that is to calm the monkey mind, to still the mind body. And then in that stillness, just notice what there is to be noticed. Do you have any discomfort in your body? Because if you do, that is where your energy is unbalanced. So consciously breathe into that area and let your breath relax that area and disperse the toxic energy that's causing your discomfort. You can visualize it if you want as inhaling white light and then directing it to your area of discomfort. You can see it as a dark mist being dispersed by the white light. And these are little tools to help you consciously move your energy, facilitating healing. So let your breath calm and relax these areas, heal these areas, allowing your energy to freely flow, balancing your life force. And then notice how this releases your discomfort. Notice if you were a 10 and you do this, if it goes to a 9 or an 8 or a 7 or a 3 or whatever, just notice it. No judgment, no forcing, just directing your breath, your consciousness to those areas, and then noticing if there's a change in your discomfort. In the stillness, notice your mind. Where are troubling thoughts occurring in your mind? This is where your energy is unbalanced. So consciously breathe into that area of your mind, letting your breath calm and relax your mind. You can see those troublesome thoughts as a dark mist. And again, the breath is white healing light. Your consciousness is white healing light. Directing it into those areas and dispersing that dark mist. Let your breath relax your mind, allowing your energy to flow freely, bringing balance again to your life force. And notice how this releases any troubling thoughts or calms you down. Maybe you were that particular thought is whatever it is on your scale of negativity, and maybe by doing this, it's coming down. It's improving the situation. Maybe it completely goes away. But again, be honest and non-forceful. Just let things occur as they will. But this is one way to get the healing started. And this is utilizing the power of your mind, the power of conscious spirit, and the energy or the life force that's flowing within your body. So your mind body reflects one, your soul and flesh and bone, but also your ego. It's your connection to this world. So if you're ready, let go of your connection to this world. Just visualize letting go of your mind body. That breath that you were following, that consciousness that you were directing, now just let go of the mind body. Reside in that consciousness. There's nothing to fear. Your mind body has sensations, but you're not those sensations or thoughts or emotions. Just breathe deeply. You're not the mind body. You're not even the breath. You're behind the breath. Your consciousness, your awareness of the breath. Your consciousness, your awareness of the mind body. But you are none of those things. You're part of the one eternal consciousness. That's what you are. The Great Spirit, if you will, unconditional love. So completely let go and be free. The mind body is something to navigate this world, but if we identify with it, it can also be a prison. So set yourself free. Completely let go. And just be what you are, which is consciousness in this moment. Let's just sit with that for about a minute and then we'll finish up. Okay, now you're experiencing consciousness. I want you to visualize a healing circle as one conscious entity and expanding out into the world as we exhale. Visualize all of the troublesome thoughts, all of the discomfort of the world as black mist in the planet, in the beings on the planet. And visualize that we're gently blowing higher truths, higher consciousness, white healing light into the world and into all the beings of the world and dissipating all that dark mist. See the planet and everything and everyone on it being rid of that dark mist. And joining us in higher consciousness as one. All breathing as one. All conscious as one. One entity. Experiencing the physical world through separate mind bodies and these objects that we call the game of life. And slowly open your eyes. All right. That was a little bit different, wasn't it? Thank you, Trey. Kim says, I just thought the breath goes with the body. Why would that cross my mind? Well, it kind of does. I mean, you have to breathe in order to pull the necessary energy in, because you're using up energy. And so you're exhaling that spent energy, and then you have to inhale some more energy. If you were to stop doing that, the body would start shutting down because it requires a certain amount of energy of this realm. Similar to where if you were to just remove your consciousness from your mind body, it would just fall to the floor and start dissipating into the cosmic dust it was created out of, because your consciousness is what's animating it. But yeah, we take all that for granted. We just go, oh yeah, I'm going to have coffee and then I'm going to go to work. And, you know, very superficially living, not really experiencing the depth of what's going on here and the depth of what could be going on here. Kim's reminding everybody to drink a full glass of water. Aha, Trey, there you go. Connection. Amy, you like that too? Awesome. All right. Susan, yep. You're all quite welcome. I honor God within you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.